Hello, super expanders. So excited to share this amazing human being with you. She is full of energy, a complete master at her craft, and you guys are just in for a treat today. I would love to introduce you to Jillian Murphy.
What's up? I'm so excited to be here today. Corey is one of my absolute favorite humans, and it's such an honor to be here today.
Goodness, I'm so excited. So just a little bit of context. Jillian and I have known each other for it's almost I think like 2 years now.
Yeah, 2 years.
It's coming up. Time really does fly. We met in a mastermind and have cultivated a friendship, a relationship, both business wise and then just of course because she's an amazing human and I love to surround myself with amazing humans. So. And you guys know we don't waste any time. We just go straight for it. So Jillian, I'd love for you to share with everyone who you are as like a person. Who is Jillian? And you guys are going to find out why I think she's so amazing as she opens up and shares like who she is at her essence.
Yeah. So who is Jillian Murphy? She is a mother. She is a few-time cancer survivor. She is a workhorse. She is a friend. She is a confidant, and she's here to make a difference in the world of many.
See, there you have it.
Mm-hmm.
She's an absolute powerhouse.
Thank you.
In all of that and your mission to make a big impact in the world, let's talk a little bit about your talents, your gifts, how you're bringing that impact to the world.
Yeah. So I think that, I have been given some God-given talents, spirit talents, whatever it is that you believe in. And, I really want to bring them to the world. I think that some of my talents are my personality, my extrovertedness, my realness, my authenticity, my ability to sell, which I think is a great ability to have, and really just being a connector. I love connecting. I love getting to know people. And I think those are my gifts. I'm very honest to the core. And I love people. I genuinely love people with everything that I have. And I think that is probably one of my favorite gifts that I have been given, is that I see people. I love people, all walks of life. And I love people.
Which is why she is like the go-to person to cultivate your sales skills, your sales process, all things sales with, because it really does boil down to authenticity and relationships, which pretty much sums up everything you just said as being like your talents, your gifts, your zone of genius. So because that is the what it is that you bring to the world, which is really opening up the space for people to bring their impacts to the world. Because I think the first thing that people think sales is just all of a sudden it's like sales, money. But it's so much more intricate and so much more in depth than that. How did you get your start in that? And what was the journey of essentially mastering that craft?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I actually was just telling somebody this story today, which is so interesting. So I took an internship over the summer because my parents told me I needed to, do something over the summer. So I took an internship in sales, and I ended up having to work with all these salespeople. And these guys were like in their 50s and 60s. And we would go into these buildings to sell. And I would watch these men, and they would go in and they would be selling. They would have their clipboards, and they would just have their price list, and they'd be selling. And we would get in the car, and I was 19, 20 years old. And I would say, that guy had a picture of his son on his desk. How come you didn't ask any questions about it? And they'd be like, because we're selling, we're busy, we got to go. And then I would go to the next one, and I would say, he had a picture of him and his wife on his desk, at their day of their marriage. Like, you didn't ask any questions about that. And he'd be like, we're selling, we got to go. And I would see that they were not taking any time to really get to know their customers. So as I was in this internship, and I would start to go back to these customers over and over and over, I would start to have conversations with these people. I would be like, hey, tell me how long your son's been playing baseball for. How long has your daughter been playing soccer for? How long have you guys been married? Like, I cannot wait till the day I get to get married. And through that, these relationships really started to build. And because I was breaking down this like communication and this friendship, he was actually selling more because we were building these relationships. And then that's really where it started to happen. And I saw that I was going to be really successful in sales, but it's not because I was ever going to sell in the way that traditionally sales felt like. I was going to be a super connector. I was going to build relationships. And then from there, people were just going to naturally want to do business with me because we were in a relationship and I was going to help them and serve them through all of it. There was a client that I called on for 81 weeks before he ever bought from me. And my peers were like, "You're nuts. Why are you still calling on them?" And I was like, I'm getting to know him. Like we're friends. And he ended up being one of my biggest sales I've ever had to this day. And it's because I was cultivating a friendship and cultivating a relationship.
Like you just made sales super fun.
Sales is so fun. Sales, you guys, if you take any notes out of this, sales is truly the greatest job in the world.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what I just heard. I was like, oh, which it almost, it comes back to that whole idea of when you're serving, the money comes. When they tell you, when we're looking at business and it's always like, stop making it about you and just start serving, which essentially is the same thing. Salespeople or business owners go in with the intention of like this end goal in mind, rather than like taking a deep breath and saying, oh, this is a person that I'm talking to. And if I focus on the person, the rest will come. And understanding that maybe the sale doesn't come from that person, but maybe it comes from somebody that they know. And because you've built that relationship, they refer you, or the sale comes later. And like you said, your biggest sale came out of exercising a lot of patience, but also truly being genuine and caring about the person, because no one's calling on someone for 81 weeks thinking, I'm really just going to see this one through to get the sale.
No, I mean, it's so funny. He ended up like coming to my wedding. Like that customer ended up coming to my wedding. And one of the questions that I get asked all the time, probably like every single day, is how do you sell so much in the DMs? Like how do you sell so much in the DMs? And my answer is always so simple. I'm never trying to sell anybody ever. And I think that is like something that people need to remember too. If you are always going in trying to sell, you're not going to sell. So take the agenda off of it. Like I'm just going in, connecting. I'm going into that store or that customer or that client or that realtor, whatever it is, just looking to connect. I'm never looking to sell. That's why I sell so much.
Okay, so that makes me have some questions. One, how do you release the attachment to the sale when you need the sale?
So that's a good question, because some people are like, but I really have to sell because I have to like make my mortgage. So I have a mindset around sales that when people are meant to work with me, they are going to come into my world. I really do believe that. I believe that the people that are meant to work with me will. There are some people that I meet on the first call, the first day they start following me and they buy something from me, and the people that I meet down the road that they work with me. It is a mindset, and it's a mindset that takes time. Again, I've been doing this for 22 years. It's definitely gotten better over time. There's a mindset around being detached from the outcome. And for every no that someone does tell me, because I still get lots of no's, I know that it opens up the space for the right person to come in. I also have a mindset when it comes to sales that they get to buy from me and they get to work from me and they get to work with me. So it's never like I'm trying to sell someone something. It's like they get to work with me. And when you have that confidence around what you're selling and what it is that you're doing, you always show up better every single time. Like I launched something today as a great example. And I'm not thinking to myself, I wonder if anybody's going to join. I wonder if anybody's going to sign up. I'm like, the people that are meant to be there will. And guess what? They get to be part of this container. That's how I feel when I sell things.
I love that. I love that so much. So how were you able to cultivate that trust in the process, and sort of how do you how do you coach your clients to cultivate that trust in themselves and in the process?
So I will say I am not a mindset coach. So if you guys need mindset work with Corey. I'm not a mindset coach. And I tell people, like, if you got a lot of mindset work, come to me after. Get work on all that stuff first, and then come to me. But there is some mindset stuff around sales, and there is definitely some trusting of that. That does need to happen ahead of that. Some of it is just being sold on what it is that you're selling. So when it comes to the mindset around sales, where I work really good in is being sold on your products, being sold on your services, being sold that you're the expert in this space, being sold that you are the person for the job, and having that confidence. So that's where I really work on that mindset. When it comes to the mindset around like money and like scarcity and showing up, that is probably when you need to work with a mindset coach, hire Corey, someone like that. That's not my zone of genius.
Love that. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug for Corey.
I didn't pay her, guys. I didn't pay her. Maybe I should afterwards.
I'll send an invoice.
Yes. So basically what I'm hearing is if you're basically unabashedly confident, and not only that, but also super excited about your product, knowing that the product or the service or whatever it happens to be that you're building or selling is hands down the best, that's where you step in and you give someone the strategies, the tools, sort of the process to follow. That's sort of a tried and true process, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I work with my clients, the number one question I ask them is, why should I buy from you? Like, tell me why I should hire you. So if you are $5,000, $50,000, $100,000, or you're selling me a $5 thing of lip gloss, why should I buy that? Because you have to be your first sale before anybody else is going to buy. And if you can't show up confidently talking about that, then that's where we have some work to do, because sales is not just an exchange of money. Sales is an exchange of confidence as well. So your customers, clients, ideal clients, followers need to know that like you got them. So when you're confident that you have them, you're confident about your services. If they're teetering on it, in your teetering on your confidence, that's when it's like, oh, I don't know. You know, if people are not confident in sales, but they see me showing up all the time and I'm like, I'm going to change your life. I know sales. I'm confident. I can help make you money. They're like, okay, I trust this girl. And that's where it really, really, really happens. Also, going back to like the mindset around sales, if you are in scarcity around sales and scarcity around money, one thing that I will tell you is that everything around sales is like a pipe. So the more activity that you do, the more results that you will have. So I want you to think like, if you continuously put stuff in the pipe, you're going to have more results at the bottom. So part of the reason why I am never really in scarcity is because I'm putting things in the pipe all the time. Content, stories, I'm putting things out there all the time. So I'm never worried about where that next sale is going to come from. Where we start to worry is when we put one thing out there and it doesn't sell and then we stop. So if you continuously fill your funnel, and when I say funnel, it's nothing fancy, your Instagram stories, your Instagram, you continuously feed that all the time, you're going to get results, hands down.
So this brings me to another question as I'm sitting here thinking about filling the pipe. How do you not get hung up on just filling the pipe? How do you, and juggle filling the pipe and then coming to check out the bottom and make sure stuff's coming out the bottom?
Oh my gosh, I used to do this in corporate, you guys. I would literally like take a PVC pipe and I would do this like in front of when I was a corporate trainer, and I would say, okay, this is what you guys are doing. You put one penny in and then you quickly run to the bottom and you're like, what happened? And then you put one penny in and then you run to the bottom and see what happened. Quit looking at the bottom, just keep putting stuff in. And guess what? It's going to happen at the bottom. It'll happen. It absolutely will. Just keep filling it. It'll happen.
Yes, that's what I was like. Oh, I feel like that must be a problem, right? For some people, they're like at the top, at the bottom, and then they get stuck at the bottom, waiting, looking up the pipe.
Yeah, I have a client right now that's launching, and she talked about it one time on her Instagram stories, and she hasn't talked about it again. It's been like 4 days, And I literally sent her a message like 3 days ago. And I was like, how's your launch going? And she's like, nobody's bought. And I'm like, of course, because you put one deposit into the PVC pipe. And now you're waiting to see what happens. You got to keep filling it. You got to keep putting it in.
Oh my God. Yeah, right. It's like if you're when you're launching or selling something, if you're not tired of talking about it, then you're not talking about it enough.
100%.
You're like, if I hear myself talk about that
Yeah,
thing one more time.
absolutely.
So as you're talking, I'm just like feeling your energy and your excitement, which makes me wonder. I'm not sure. Are you into human design? Do you know? Are you? I'm gonna let you tell me. I have a guess of what you are, if you know.
So, it's so funny. I don't know anything about human design, but there was a girl who slid into my DMs the other day and was like, I want you to take this quiz because I think that you are a manifestation generator or
Uh,
generator, whatever. I don't even know.
Manifesting generator.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was like, I think you're a generator. And I was like, I don't know, but yeah, that. And I
That
think
okay.
that's what I was.
Yeah, nailed it. Okay. And that's, I would say, probably of all of the human design categories, or I don't know what they're really called, but categories. I think that's probably one of the most gifted salesperson would be that, because generators and manifesting generators, basically people are ready to get on board with you, whatever you're excited about, which essentially you said that's part of one of the secrets of sales. If you're excited and confident about it, you can rally people to feel excited and confident. And when they feel that way, they trust you, and then
Yeah.
they buy from you.
You guys, people will pay to be in your energy. People will pay to be evoking them. So I have had people buy from me because they say that I evoke an emotion and an energy in them that they want to be part of. They don't necessarily even need like my strategies or my framework, but they're like, something about your energy evokes something in me. So like, make sure whatever you're doing, maybe you're evoking a sense of calm. Like when I'm around Corey, I have like a sense of like calmness. Like, what are you evoking in people? Because that's what people pay for, is that feeling that you bring to them on those calls or those programs or those masterminds or those one-on-ones or whatever it is. Make sure you're evoking that in people.
I love that so much, which kind of makes me want to circle back to, you shared some stuff at the beginning of, and like who you are. You have been through some really big things in life, which I feel like are a piece of the fuel that makes you such a talented connector. It makes you such a talented salesperson and so gifted at being able to explain the process to others. So you mentioned being a multi-time cancer survivor, which that's a big deal. So we glossed right over that and jumped into the sales lesson. So you guys can thank me for that later, because she just delivered some massive gems to you. But now I really want to talk about like the resilience and the grit that you have, that, and to be able to show up in such a powerful way after going through such tough stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I had childhood leukemia. Obviously, when I was a child, I had it when I was 5 and when I was 8. So, that really set me up for my younger years, and that was really how I spent the majority of my younger life, my elementary school years. And even going back to like that community thing we talked about, there was a place in our hospital where all the kids would meet. And a lot of kids didn't feel good, they were going through chemo, and we would have at 7 o'clock every night, we would have this like game room, and we would play games, we would color and whatnot. And I would literally walk up and down the hallway with my IV pole back in the day, and I'd be like, come on, it's game night, it's 7 o'clock. And I would literally like pull my friends like out of their hospital beds and like bring them down to that room. So even like back then, I remember being like, so I loved community, and I loved being around like other people. I never wanted a private room. My parents always wanted me in private rooms, and I was like, I want to share a room with like a friend. Like I want a hospital room with like another buddy. So yeah, I always wanted to be around people.
That gives me chills just thinking about that, like as a little girl rallying the community.
My little bald
And
head, my pajamas.
oh,
Yeah.
so this, which makes me come in with the context then. So you were young, and that has a formidable piece that kind of digs into your subconscious mind. That's like during the time your subconscious mind is formed. So how have you been able to navigate some of the things that had to have been just kind of imprinted into the subconscious mind?
Probably not well. Honestly, there's probably a lot of subconscious work that has to be done, because I would say now, that happened when I was 5 and 7, and now I'm 43. My whole life has been fearful of being sick. My whole life. I mean, I have my whole life. It doesn't matter if I have a cold, a broken foot, anything. It's always the worst of the worst. So I think that has definitely like been put into my subconscious for sure, where, my other friends and family members and my parents, even for an example, if they get something that's very common, they just take an Advil or a Tylenol or take a nap or something like that. And I always go to the extreme. So that's definitely set me up in a very different position. And, it's caused a lot of like hard times. It's caused a lot of like probably, financial strains I didn't need because I was paying for doctors that I didn't need at some point. And yeah, it's definitely set me up for a harder road for sure.
So when I'm listening to you, I think that what I'm also hearing though is it's actually a piece that's given you an edge though, because I'd imagine that you at a very young age had this really deep understanding of the preciousness of life. So I mean, and I maybe I'm putting words out there, like leading you in this direction, but I'm just like thinking with the way that you show up with the excitement and the zest that you do for life, I feel like it is truly like you grasped something that most people don't start to wrap their head around until later in life, really thinking like, oh, I really need to live today as if it, like full on 100% in, because we don't have any guarantees.
Yeah, no, we don't. And it's interesting because I saw more people die probably before I was the age of 10 than probably most people see in their whole lifetime. Because back then when I had leukemia, it was not how it is now. If you get it, it's still a very serious disease if you get it now. But, back in the 80s, I mean, I would wake up in the morning and I would have like 3 friends in my unit that, had died overnight. So I had seen kids die consecutively, like over and over and over. So that was also embedded in me. So when I was able to get out and when I was able to play, I like lived life to the fullest, especially as a child. I mean, as a child, I played as much as I could and lived far out, because I knew that every time I went back into that hospital, a lot of my friends never came out.
Oh, that's like crazy, heartbreaking, something that no child should ever have to experience. So, okay, so you have two-time cancer survivor, which is beyond amazing
Thank you.
and inspiring. But recently, you also had a pretty big health scare, one that was just this mystery thing that was riding on you for so long.
Yeah.
And you continued to show up despite the internal fears that you were experiencing, despite the symptoms that you were also experiencing on top of just the mindset and like the mental drain that was going on.
Yeah. So I would say probably the last 7 months were probably the hardest 7 months of my life. Way harder than even having cancer, believe it or not. For not even having an actual diagnosis, it was the hardest 7 months of my life. So quick backstory was I fell off of a bike in July and kind of tabled it, didn't really pay much attention to it, busted up my chin, got a couple stitches. From there, did some traveling, came back and started to just have this handful of very odd neurological symptoms that nobody could figure out. And it was not even neurological symptoms that everyday people complain about. It wasn't like I was having headaches or double vision. It was things that I couldn't even explain to people that made sense. Like, oh, I felt like I was on a boat, or I felt like there was just very, very weird symptoms. And it got to the point that I actually ended up seeing 27 specialists in about 3 months, and nobody could figure it out. I mean, they tested me from everything from MS to lupus, to a parasite in my brain, to fibromyalgia, I had MRIs, CAT scans, lumbar punctures, literally everything under the sun. And the hardest part was that nobody could figure it out. So every night when I went to bed, kind of like when I had cancer, I was like, is something going to happen in my sleep? Is this the one headache that's going to be the one headache that I don't wake up from? Or is this the one time I'm dizzy today that I'm going to fall? Like, it was just this unwavering, like, scared feeling every single day. And you're right, I was still showing up and I wasn't able to get on my client calls and I wasn't able to get on Zoom because I was like, my thinking was slower. It was just this like super weird thing. And what they ended up finding out was that when I fell off of my bike, I actually injured my brain, and I actually had this like small brain injury, and I ended up having to go to a bunch of different therapy, and I'm about 75% out of the weeds now. I'm not 100% back by any means, but even that is a great example of like advocating for your own health, because there was a point that some of these doctors were writing me scripts for Xanax, Ativan, scripts to go to a psychiatrist because nobody could figure it out. And I was just advocating for myself. And knowing what I had been through as a child, I kept saying to myself, I know my body and something's not right. I mean, there was a point during this time that I actually cash paid for an MRI because the doctors wouldn't rewrite me another one. And I'm like, I know something's not right. And I'm willing to like cash pay for another one just to get it like checked out. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I know something's not right with me, or, I've been told something, advocate for your own health, because you know your body better than anybody.
Oh, we could totally go on a tear
Yeah.
about that. I feel like, especially now,
Yeah.
the way the medical system has gone in the last 2 years, we are up against a lot of things.
It's crazy.
So, in all of your life experience, you've lived a lot of different things that most people have never had to experience. I imagine that there have been some super expanders in your life along the way that have really pushed you to expand your limits, to be a support, and really inspire you to push through these things that could have been like massive roadblocks for you,
Mhm.
but rather these obstacles were actually turned into things that were almost gifts in a way.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say there's definitely probably three that come to mind just as soon as you said that. One is my parents. My parents have just always been like that expander for me, that have helped me not only just like in life, but just in business, and have pushed me to that other step, and have just have been those people in my life. My daughter, I have a 21-year-old, and I was a single mom at a young age, and she also was probably that person that expanded me just as a human and as a woman and as a friend and as a mother, for sure. And then I think it's my circle of business mentors and my circle of community. And that's why I will always be with a business mentor. And I'll always be in a business community, because those are the people that'll always help you play bigger and see bigger, even when you're doing great. I mean, even now, I have a great business. I make great money. I have great things. But if you're not always being expanded to that next level, how are you ever going to get even farther each and every time?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So, of your super expanders, is there like a specific story that kind of sticks out as being a big defining moment?
Yeah, so actually, I would say probably one of the biggest ones was that I also suffer from massive anxiety, and I have a business coach, and she was planning a retreat to Turks and Caicos. Raquel Quinnett, if she's listening to this, I think you know Raquel too, and she was planning a retreat to Turks and Caicos for a mastermind, and yeah, I wanted to go. And I was so nervous, and I said no, and I said no, and I said no, and I said no, and I wasn't going to go. And she worked with me on like, let's go, let's get you on this trip. It's going to be great. It's going to expand you. It's going to expand your network. It's going to expand your mindset. It's going to expand your network. It's going to expand you. It's going to expand you just to travel across the country by yourself, like all of these things. And I'm so grateful that she expanded me in that time to go on that trip, because it was probably one of the best trips that I went on, not only just for my network, but my business. Now I do say that when I came back from that trip is when the neurological stuff happened. So like, I'm not sure 100% if it was the best trip. But yeah, I think that was like a really big moment in my life, that she really expanded me, because she saw more in me than I was willing to see in myself.
And that is definitely that's the definition of a super expander. And she didn't take your no at
Mhm.
face value. She saw beyond that, and she kept urging you to
Mhm.
step into the woman that she knew that you were meant to be, to
Yeah.
take on this trip of traveling on your own and into a new environment with all new women, which is, that's a big deal, going on essentially like a solo traveling into
Mhm.
a whole new circle
Yeah.
of women, which can be a tough situation. That can be tough. I mean,
Yeah.
I say that because I'm like, it has me a little shaken in
Yeah.
my boots being on a trip with all girls that I've never met before. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this could be a little, who knows how this is going to go.
And it was really interesting because, obviously we had to get a COVID test before we went. And it was interesting because I took my COVID test and the urgent care lost it. So when they lost it, it was almost like a sigh of relief because I was like, I don't have to go. And I was so excited because I was like, this is a sign I don't have to go. And I remember I called Raquel and I was like, I don't have to go. I'm not gonna be able to make it. They didn't go. And she had sent me quickly a text of where I could go and get it done like super quick. And I was like, damn it. She's still expanding me even at this last minute when I don't want to go. And we got the test in like a few hours before my flight got in, and I was like, oh, and I got on that flight and I made it, and yeah, it was great.
And I saw the pictures of that trip. It was a trip for sure to remember. What an experience. Okay. I love it. I love it. Super expanders. I mean, I have such a passion for the concept. And I think it's such an important piece for all of us to have expanders, to have people that we can really look to show us proof that like we can do hard things, we can do big things, and that it's possible. But also, I just feel like it paves the way when we can look to someone, then it gives us the opportunity to be a super expanders for others, right?
Mhm.
So when as you're thinking of like what it is that drives you in your business and your life, what is your true North Star? What is the thing that you're reaching for beyond the goals and the business? And of course, we all want to make loads of money and help loads of people and the impact. But what's the feeling? Because we do have to have something really big that drives us if we're going to do big things.
Yeah. So one of my North Stars is that I want to be able to write 6-figure checks back to kids with cancer. Like that's one of my huge North Stars. Yeah. So like whether it's Make-A-Wish, whether it's St. Jude's, whether it's just families that I know that I can just give 6-figure checks to, that has always been like a huge, huge, huge driver of mine. Even when I was in corporate, I'm like, I would just love to be able to just give a 6-figure check to people that need it. So yeah, it's my driver.
Mm, I love, I love that. That's it gives me chills actually.
Thank you.
If you could give your younger self any little nugget of advice, what would it be? This is really what I mean. I love to call this like your super expander moment for the audience that's been listening. I think that the things that we have learned that we would have given, if you can look back on your life, things that you'd give advice to. And it's funny because somebody that recently was like, I wouldn't change anything. And I was like, no, not that you'd ever change anything, but it's kind of like, if you could go back, you'd be dangerous had you given yourself this kind of encouragement, this sort of wisdom, what would it be?
I would probably not sweat all the small things. Like if it's
Mm,
not going to matter in 5 years from now, don't sweat it today. Because I think that we spend so much time getting wrapped up in the now and the emotion now. I mean, even this week, like there was a situation that like stressed me out and I wasted like hours of my week, like stressed out about it. And then looking back now, it's been like 3 or 4 days and I'm like, I wasted like hours of my week stressed out about that. So like not wasting time on the things that don't matter or aren't going to matter.
most of the time, that's like all of them.
All of them. All of them.
It's all of them. I was actually, I don't remember who I was even talking to just recently about this, but so often, whatever it is that we're worrying about, it's like 99.9% of the time, it turns out to be, it doesn't turn out to be the thing we worried about, right? Like we were so worried about X and it just never comes to fruition, but you
Never.
waste so much time, so much energy, you put so much
Mhm.
stress on your body and on your mind. And
Mhm.
it's like this like form of torture. I think that we as humans in this weird secret way, we must kind of like it.
I know. I think that we do. There's like a thrill from that or an example. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Mhm.
So good. Well, all of the people listening, I know now want to be in your world. They need to be in your world. So how exactly can they find you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So if you are in Corey's world, I definitely want to get to know you. You guys follow me on Instagram, the Jillian Murphy. That's where I hang out. I spend a lot of time on the gram in my stories. Literally, I want to get to know you. Come say hello, send me a DM. Yeah, let's definitely connect.
Yeah. See if she'll talk to you for 81 weeks. No.
I will. 81 weeks. Drop me an 81 in the DMs.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for taking the time to hop on here and share your story, share your wisdom. I'm so grateful for you for being here, for your friendship, for all of it.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
We will catch you on the next episode.